So we are now shifting from a more masculine, energy-based environment of an organization to a more feminine organization where creativity thrives, collaboration thrives. There is a sense of belonging. There is a way of nurturing each other through support system.
Hey everyone, welcome to Talk with Oyin, and I'm your host Oyin. Here we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, authors, creators, and more. So to stay ahead of all our upcoming interviews, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. So today we have a remarkable individual who has dedicated herself to advocating for inclusion and diversity. She's an authority when it comes to incorporating diversity into corporate spaces. Our guest, Karishma, is an author, organizational development specialist, and certified diversity, equity, and inclusion professional with over 15 years of experience in creating psychologically safe and inclusive workplace. And today she's here to talk about her journey so far. So without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed guest, Karishma. Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having time to be with us here today. Yeah. So I'm just going to go straight into asking you, what is diversity and inclusion in the workplace and what is not? I mean, I know there are a lot of mix-ups
Well,
about what is and what is not. So
certainly. So, definitely, I'll start with what diversity and inclusion really means. Diversity at workplace means collaborating with people who are coming from diverse backgrounds. And diverse backgrounds not only means caste, color, race, religion, geography, ethnicity, and all, but I think it also means that we bring together the differences and we celebrate differences together. For example, people coming from different backgrounds, they will come with different ideologies, they will come with different mindset. And in a workplace, with the difference of the thought process that we have, we collaborate. And that's where innovation and creativity starts to step in. So that's the importance of diversity at workplace. But it is practically impossible to have people coming from different backgrounds in a workplace stay together for long unless there's inclusion to it. Unless I am open to you as a person and you're open to me as a person. Unless I'm able to bring my authentic self to the workplace without feeling judged, without feeling being discriminated, and I'm able to bring my whole self to the work. So that environment that I'm creating, that system that I'm creating, the breaking down of the systemic barriers, the glass ceiling, and all of that together, what brings inclusivity at the workplace and therefore strengthens the bonds, fosters belonging at the workplace.
So how did you get into can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get into DEI?
All right. So my journey started long back. Of course, there have been a lot of background information in terms of my personal journey before I actually got into the professional front. Of course, being a woman in an Indian setup, always being discriminated based on gender. Then moved on to the workplace. Of course, women generally do have experienced a lot of glass ceilings and systemic barriers in the progression. So all of that became a part of my journey. But what also became part of my journey was being an HR representative myself for over all these years. I was also having an eye and ear and also a shoulder of a lot of other people who used to come forward with their own grievances, with their own stories and their own complexities. Because see, when we are in a diverse workplace, there is a lot of intersectionality that plays. I may be assuming that I'm a woman and maybe a similar story will come from another woman. No, because she will be having her own circumstantial situations, making her case probably more different, more complicated, perhaps. So that mix of intersectionality, the way it used to be popping up in employee stories, actually started shaping up my ideologies differently. And I always wanted to do something because it was also not about empowering anybody else, but also empowering myself as a woman. right? And then, as life progressed, I moved into diversity and inclusion, taken up a lot of certifications because this is where I really wanted to make an impact, believing that be the change you want to see. Unless you create the impact, nobody else will come and do that impact, that course correction for you. So you have to, hold it in your hands before you give it to somebody else. And from there, my journey started into diversity and inclusion.
That's interesting. And so you decided to write a book. Can you tell me the inspiration behind the book?
Ah, yes, this book is Cracking the Code of Diversity and Inclusion. This is my first book on this particular subject. I have written a couple of other books, but this still remains very close to my heart for I've actually asked. And the reason really is, um, being a single parent. And, I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I always used to question me, is the life that I have gone through, the complexities of being a woman I've gone through, the changing landscape of Indian organizations where women are stepping out of the house, getting into the workplace, competing with the male counterparts in terms of the salary that they are getting, and even contributing equally, and yet getting discriminated in a lot of areas because being a woman. So my question to myself after my daughter was born was, is this what I really want my daughter to grow up into? Is this the workplace I want my daughter to step into? Is this the society I want my daughter to be brought up into? And my question always was no. There's something I need to do about it. And therefore, my inspiration is my daughter, where through my books and webinars and open community discussions that we keep doing with fellow DNI professionals in the community, the intent is to spread awareness of celebrating differences and identifying uniqueness that each one of us bring to the table, collaborate instead of discriminate in order to achieve the organization's goals.
Yeah. So, what are there some practical tips that are outlined in your book that can help people, apply a more inclusive or encourage a more inclusive workspace where they are? Could you share them with us?
See, there is definitely not one size fits all, to be very, very honest. Every organization
Mm,
comes with its own background, its own culture, its own values, and there are certain implied and implicit, practices that are prevalent in the organization. And every team will have a different culture. Every group, every department will have a different culture, and that flows from the top of the department. Who's heading that department? How is he approaching the situations that people are coming up with? So there's no one size fits all, definitely. And it is always important for us to, whatever that we're planning to strategize in an organization from a DNI perspective, to be always linked to a common objective, which is technically what? For an organization, technically, we are looking at some kind of a growth, some kind of an improvement at an organizational level. So, how do I, as a DNI consultant or a professional, integrate all of these strategies that you're asking to the overall mission and vision of the organization? And from there, once I have my integrated, DNI, based on the integrated DNI model that I talk about in this particular book, then how do I take that strategy, build some kind of a mission and vision statement or a DNI charter, which is relevant to the value system of the organization? Because there has to be a connection, there has to be strategic correlation. And from there, I cascade it down. What is it for each department to work on? Within the department, what is there within each unit that they can do? And then from there to managers and then to the employees. And that is how we actually create a multifold effect for DNI. So asking that, what practical strategies that somebody can bring to the table, it has to be completely tailored.
yeah, yeah. So when organizations want to work with you, or how do they? How is the process contacting you, and how you try to tailor everything down to their specific needs?
So there is, as I mentioned, there is no one size fits all. So every case is unique. Every organization is unique. Even if I say it is an IT organization in general, as a industry, every industry is unique. Every organization is unique. every organization's culture is unique, so it has to be tailor-made. Of course, there are broad steps that we look at. It's a five-step method that we follow. First is about assessing where the organization really is in the current level of maturity, and then we map it to the maturity model. From there, we understand, okay, this is where the organization is, and this is what if the organization is really wanting to. Is it one step jump or two step jump or three-step jump? Depending on that, then we define, okay, this is the scope of the work. And from there, everything starts to follow. We start to review the existing landscape. Then we also start to review and establish a baseline. This is the baseline. What next has to be done? How is it being perceived? The existing structure is being perceived. So we do some kind of global assessment for that particular organization, and from there we start to drill it down to the strategy level, to the KPIs, and develop measures, need and lag measures, what needs to be developed over a period of time. It's not you just go and implement something and you say, okay, 6 months, project done. No, because DNI is all about influencing the culture. It's not just about putting a system there and we say, okay, it's done. And to ensure that a culture, a change in culture for that matter, remains stable and sustainable, it is at least a 3-year journey that organizations have to take in order to start seeing meaningful changes in our lives in the current scenario.
Yeah, I know you mentioned this a little bit, but how early should organizations start incorporating DNI into there? Is it just for matured companies, or are there stuff that um, new, baby companies could also integrate little by little?
So I think for a lot of organizations, inclusion is the foundation of its cultural definition. For many organizations, they are far away from the reality. Plus, these days, in the last about I would say 10 years, if not more, a lot of I would say countries have realized, because the UN has also started talking about diversity inclusion in different fragments and segments across the globe, and have started putting it as a mandate in the human rights, which the UN defines as its charter. And taking a clue from there, a lot of countries have started coming up with their own laws and amendments and acts which are essential for the organizations to follow and abide with. For example, in India, we have LGBTQIA plus, which is now being taken up. The Pride movement is now being seeking recognition after the Transgender Act was passed, and the PWD bill, which is passed in 2016, again, persons with disabilities. So a lot of the shifts are happening in the workplace, but they're happening at a slower pace. With the agenda of DNI and consulting like these, and for that matter, even training for HR people who wants to establish their own in-house DNI framework, so they have to take step by step, one step at a time. But journey is there. It's already defined by a lot of countries, a lot of organizations. So today, if I say that is DNI a choice for an organization, it is definitely not a choice. Neither from compliance perspective nor from the perspective of the employee. Because today the market is so open that if I do not feel belonging, the sense of belonging to an organization, if I do not feel that this is a workplace I would really want to love to come to every single day, I might find a job in another place. And from keeping all of that background, employer branding, compliances, stakeholder value, shareholders getting involved, your social media becoming so active. One case of discrimination raised up by, let's say, an LGBTQIA person uh, against the organization for discrimination, it just blows up on social media, and no matter how much of the post mortem assessment that you can do, the damage is already happened, and that hits the brand.
So I know you mentioned a lot of benefits, right? But what challenges have you faced first? Yeah, what challenges have you faced in the terms of trying to incorporate DNI into organizations? Yeah. And then what challenges to businesses, apart from what you just mentioned about the whole blowing up, have to, be aware of that if they don't do this, they have this to worry about.
So I would first talk about challenges that a general DNI consultant would, or a trainer would get into while having the discussion. See, the discussion starts from the top. You need to understand the mind of the person who's heading the organization, to be a CEO or next in line, or maybe one above MD or somebody. But
mm,
to understand what is his vision is very important. And most of the times, people at that level, while many times, I mean, they know what they really want at the end, which is more of a business impact, but they are not technically ready to be saying give a go ahead for the structural changes to break the systemic barriers, to question the unconscious bias, and reframe the entire set of systems and policies, keeping DNI perspective. Because that requires complete restructuring of the organization, complete restructuring of the way that the previous sector has been working. It talks about reviewing of the processes and policies, employee-friendly policies, whether they are there or not. That's the first question. It talks about changing the mindset of people, which a lot of people are not ready to, because if they feel threatened, because they feel that somebody is pointing finger at me that I have not been doing that particular thing right, and yet I am at a very senior level already. So they start taking it as a personal threat, whereas we as a consultant always go back and say, okay, this is the need of the hour, whether you accept or you don't accept. Today, tomorrow, you will have to find somebody else, if not me, to work on things. Without this, you may not see next 10 years.
yeah.
Coming to
Wow.
the second your question, which is about the challenges at an organizational level. One is the systemic barriers, the assessment of the systemic barriers. That is crucial. Organizations believe that if they reduce the barriers at the entry level, where they are hiring diverse people, LGBTQIA, transgenders, minorities, and so on and so forth, they are they are doing the service of tokenism, and that is it. But unless and unless you actually do the awareness, you actually build cultural competence, you actually go back and create individual plans for people who are not so inclusive already, unless you integrate inclusion as a matter of, let's say, promotion to the next level, you have those behaviors listed down very clearly, and you are ready to take an action against people who are not abiding by those behaviors. That is when a lot of organizations feel that, okay, this is my key resource, this is my go-to person, this is my VP for that matter, and you've scored him so low on inclusion of leadership traits. How do I go back and question that? The ways of working needs to be changed. And then that's just one area which is called mindset and unconscious bias that needs to be addressed. The other thing is the organization really willing to take up defined KPIs and come as a matter of cascading of the business strategy to KPIs? Because people believe this is not my contribution. Somebody else needs to come and do it. It's the HR's job to do it. It's the DNI's job to do it. It is
Mm,
each individual's job, responsibility, and cognizance of that together that will make a difference. Is most
mm. First, I was going to say that's a very, very tough job that you have, trying to put this in place, especially when you're working with, you know, difficult heads, head of organizations, management. So it's kudos to you, right? Yeah. So I was going to, on the last thing you said, I was going to ask, so what are your thoughts on people who are trying to promote the idea of DNI of their corporate organizations, or generally? What are your thoughts on people trying to promote this without having to, you know, come up as offensive? Because for you it takes so much experience and hard work to know how to approach people on this issue. So what are your thoughts on that?
six. The first thing is that you need to not be in a frame of mind that you are arguing or questioning or challenging somebody. If you step with that in the discussion, the other person will definitely become defensive, and he will say, "No, I am perfect. There's something wrong with you." Right?
Mm,
But when we partner, that's where the difference comes in. When we partner with the other person, when we tell them this is for your own good, if you have a team where people feel belong, for example, they are likely to continue with you for longer duration. We're likely to retain more people for longer duration. And the way that they will be growing, the knowledge base will be growing, and so will you be growing in an organization. And when you start building up their personal interest area with what you are really wanting to, and you're not questioning what they have already been doing, rather you're telling that this is next step for you to elevate into. That's where you start to partner with them and they start to go for that. Having said that, another important point that I want to just add in here is that um, while a lot of the organizations are looking at promoting DNI, right? Most of the organizations are creating and bucketizing a lot of people. Okay, this is this particular thing, this is this particular person, this is minority, this is religion based, this is language based, and they're creating all different set of demographics around it. But what is most important for us to also understand is while we are looking at, understand, just one second. So while we are looking at understanding how do we cater to the diverse needs, because every individual is coming with his or her own unique requirement. And as an organization, I need to be sensitive to that requirement. So, one size fits all, as I mentioned earlier, does not work here. We are moving from away from having one set of policy for everybody to reasonable accommodation. What is within you and me that I can collaborate and come to a strategy to work out something for my employer, my person, and therefore we collaborate and come together and we say that the organizations have to now start looking at tailor-made policies and practices instead of having a bucket list for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we were saying, that I was just thinking about how about people, organizations who are just doing this for the clouds, for the promotion. I mean, this is the next big thing. I feel like if I go into this and start promoting this, people are going to love me more and all of that. What are your thoughts on it? And I know that at the end of the day, they don't do it for the right reasons and they don't do it the right way. So, what are your thoughts on people in organizations like
Uh,
that?
See, irrespective of whether you're doing it rightly or not, definitely what is more important is that you have the right reasons to be doing it. If the intention is clear and it is not malicious by any chance, then even if you have done something wrong or incorrect, rather, I would use the word here, there's always a way to amend it, to correct it. There's a course correction always possible. But if the intention here is, for example, just for sake of DNI, if you're just doing it for the compliance factor or ESG related concerns, and just have a tick in the checkbox, if you're just doing tokens, then that is what needs to be checked by the organizations. And most of this really comes from the unconscious bias that we have already been building up, since our early childhood development to what we are presenting ourselves as a person to the organization. We all are coming from that baggage, our the unconscious conditioning that we have been given about from our parents, from religions, from society, from social media, about what is this particular person should be. For example, if you talk about a woman like me, what is it that a person should be doing and what is a person should not be doing, right? So considering all of those gender biased roles that people define, if somebody wants to come to the table and say, hey, whatever have we been doing perhaps is no longer going to serving us, neither you or me. So can you now look at coming together, putting our heads together, how can we take it from here to the next level? And we start questioning gender bias, we start questioning the status quo, we start questioning the glass ceiling. And that is where the responsibility of each individual in an organization setup comes into picture.
Hmm, that's good. That's good. Okay. So right now, what advice would you have to give to business owners who are trying to get, struggling or trying to get in on this? What professional advice would you give to them?
Uh, I would say start with first advice, which is something I always talk about. Whenever you are getting into a discussion for DNI, whether it's been asked by the board or asked by the government authorities or for whatever reasons, the reason could be any. But whenever you are getting into the discussion for DNI, come with an open mind because most of the times The people who are sitting at the head, who are the DNI council people, people who are the strategic initiative takers of their particular organization, they come with their own baggage and they believe that I've served in the organization for 20 years. I know what is right for the organization. I've seen the organization growing. So they come with their own preconceived notions. Whereas the organization has completely changed over these, let's say, 10, 12 years. What you thought was the culture is no longer the culture. What you thought people are, completely the landscape has changed. We have so many people coming new or fresh. 20 years back, it was completely male dominated organization, when we talk about Indian landscape. Today, we have anywhere ranging from, let's say, 2% to 20, 30% of people who are coming to the organization. And organizations like, let's say, Excel Technologies, organizations like Infosys, and other organizations are actually targeting 40% of women employees by 2030. That's whooping almost, double than what they are already having, right? So that's so much of trust which women and other underrepresented sections bring to the table because of the diverse mindset that they come with, because of their own unique qualities that they bring to the table, right? So we are now shifting from a more masculine, energy-based environment of an organization to a more feminine organization where creativity thrives, collaboration thrives. There is a sense of belonging. There is a way of nurturing each other through support system. And also when I talk about the generations that have changed, I mean, we were dealing with Gen X, we were dealing with baby boomers 20 years back. Today, it is millennials who are in the workforce, admittedly. There's Gen Z coming into the organization. Probably Gen Alpha will be coming in another 15 years. Probably they don't even want to work in the organization. So how do you hold them to the organization, right? You have to give them the culture. There are organizations who are having special days. Bring your dog to work. And if I take that as an advice to let's say if my audience says that that is what they're looking forward to, but if I take that to the CEO and he says a dog at work, no, never. That's preconceived notion that dogs at work doesn't gel well. But if they are coming with that open mindset and they're willing to accept that there is a need of shift that needs to be happening in the organization, DNI framework, any DNI framework, any system, any policies will work provided it is rooted in respect, transparency, authentic self-expression, and true sense of belonging.
Wow. You're really, really rooted in this. I really like that you have quite a lot of experience in this and you really know how to manage each of the situations. And it's not easy because some people might come up as strong when you're in conversation with someone who is just closed-minded, right? But I really love that you're that. So people who want to get your book is out on Amazon right now, right?
Yes.
So they can easily get it. I'm going to
Yes.
put the description in the link of the video.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm going to put the link in the description of the video. And people who want to take a look at the book and get the book can easily find their way to that. So thank you so much for being here with us. I really, really enjoyed this. I mean, there are a lot of people who are close-minded. I hope that this conversation was able to make them, see things and I mean from a different perspective. I really love that. Thank you so much, Karishima. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yeah. So until next